Okay, so if we have this quadrant down here, we still have this quadrant down here. So let me make those dots. So this dot, these three, we don't have. But if you notice, so the first dot, so this dot here, right? This dot here is located, it's got the same, if I draw a straight line, it passes through those two, right? So those two are going to have the same x coordinate. If this one has an x coordinate of 1/2, then this guy's got to have an x coordinate of 1/2. So I'm going to put that down there. And then not only is it going to have the same x coordinate, it's going to have the same y coordinate as this guy right here, because it's on the same level. Right? So for this guy down here, I went down the square root of 3/2. So it's going to be negative root 3/2 because I went down, right? Okay, so let's do that for the next dot. For the next dot at 315. 315 has the same x as this dot up here. Root 2/2. And it has the same y as this guy right here, because it's on the same level. So negative root 2/2. Okay. Last one, 330. 330 has the same x as this guy here. So that's root 3/2. And it has the same y as this guy over here. They're just on the other side of the y-axis. Okay, so that's going to be negative 1/2. And we're done. We got it all labeled. Today we're going to use this a lot. The better this is done, the more accurate it is, the easier it is to read, the easier today is going to be. Okay, so we're going to go to the full sheet now. Now we're going to use that full sheet that I gave you today. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using this. We have the degrees, we have the radians, we have the position, where they are, right? The coordinates. Now we're going to be including the trig ratios. So when I say trig ratios, I mean these guys right here. There's 6 of them. Sine, cosine, tangent, cosecant, secant, cotangent. We've done that before, right? We've done all that before. So we're just going to, that part is review. All right. Okay, so let's go back to this guy. Let's go to this guy here. So to do this, we have 3 steps on here. On the board, I put 4 steps, but what I did was I just combined 3 and 4. Okay, so this is 3, and then this is 4 right here. That's why this one has 3 steps, and that one has 4 steps. Same thing. Okay. Okay, so first thing to do, locate it on the unit circle. So whatever angle we're looking at. So for A, 1A is 120 degrees, right? 120 degrees. That's the angle. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go find it. I'm going to go put my pencil on it on my half sheet. I'm going to go put my pencil on it. 120 is right there. Quadrant 2. That's the first thing. Not too bad. Okay. The second thing is I'm going to draw a triangle based off where it's at. So that's the hypotenuse of the triangle. So the triangle is going to look like the triangle that I did yesterday for 120. It's going to look like that. It's going to look like this guy right here. Okay. So let me draw that triangle. Let me draw it over here first. I'm going to highlight it. The triangle is going to look like this. This is the right angle right here. Okay. What type of angle? It's a right angle. But what type? Is it a special type of right triangle? What are the other degrees going to be besides this is 90? What are the others going to be? And how do we know? They're going to be 30 and 60. Yep, they're going to be 30 and 60. How do we know it's 30 and 60? Well, reference angles, right? Reference angles from 180 to 3 to where we're at right now. It said 120, right? We're at 120. The reference angle is from 180 in quadrant 2. That's this angle right here. So from 120 to 180, you subtract them and you get 60. So that means this angle here is going to be 60. So let me go write that down on my triangle. So let me go write this triangle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer that stuff. I'm going to transfer this triangle to my paper. So it's going to look like this. We said this one was 60. So that means this one has to be 30. The other thing we have to do is a dot. We have to show a dot where the origin is. Where is the origin? The origin is right here, the center, right? The center of the circle is right there. So I'm going to put a dot there on my triangle that I just drew. That represents where the middle is, the center, the origin. That's going to be important in step 3 and 4 when we get there. Okay. I haven't finished step 2 though. Step 2 said label, draw and label. I labeled the inside, but now I got to label the outside. Okay. So let me label the outside. So the outside, do I know this distance here? I do. I do know this distance here. The base, we call it the base. The bottom of a triangle is called the base. Do I know how far it is from here to here? I do. How do I know that? It's right there. It's the x, right? How wide a triangle is the x. How tall the triangle is the y. So this guy right here is the x square, negative 1/2. The height is the y. So I'm going to go label that on my triangle that I drew. So this is negative 1/2. This is the square root of 3/2. That's what we spent all day yesterday in class finding those dots, finding those coordinates all around the unit circle. So we're going to use them today. Okay. What is the hypotenuse? We actually know the hypotenuse. What is the hypotenuse? It's always going to be 1. Yeah, it's always going to be 1 because it goes from the center to the edge. The hypotenuse goes from the center to the edge. So that one's always going to be 1. So the hypotenuse today will always be 1. Okay, I know all the angles. I know all the sides. I know where my dot is. So now I can actually go to step 3. Step 3 is we've already done step 3 before, many, many times. Find cosine. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Adjacent over hypotenuse. This was in your notes yesterday. Okay, so let's go back to my picture. Adjacent from where? Adjacent, that's why we draw the dot. Adjacent from the center. So from the center, from the dot, which side is adjacent? Negative 1/2. Yep, right here, right next to it. Right? This guy is opposite the dot. We don't want opposite. We want adjacent. So it's going to be negative 1/2 over hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is 1. What do I get if I divide negative 1/2 divided by 1? Negative 1/2, yeah. You divide by 1, you're always going to get the same thing. It's not going to change. So the cosine of 120 is negative 1/2. Okay. All right, let's try the same thing, but now let's try it for 1b. 1b. 315. Now I'm doing 315. So step 1 says go find 315 on your unit circle. Go find 315. It's right there. I'm going to draw the triangle now. The triangle for unit 4, or for quadrant 4, is going to look like this. I drew it on the board here with the quadrants. Depending on which quadrant it is, that's what the triangle is going to look like. So we're in quadrant 4, so the triangle is always going to look like that. And the dot's always going to be there. The dot is going to be here. So I'm going to draw this triangle on my paper. Okay. Okay, so now I got to label it. Oops, let me do my dot first. Right there. Okay. Let me label it. The degrees. We know one of them is 90. What are the other 2 degrees besides 90? What is in the top by the origin and the bottom? 45. There are 45. Yeah, it's a 45, 45, 90. This is a 45, 45, 90. How do I know that? How do I know one of them is 45, right? If I know one of them is 45, then the other one has to be 45. But how do I know one of them? The reference angle. The reference angle goes from wherever I'm at 315, right? In this case, it's going to go back to 360. So from 315 to 360 is 45 degrees. So that means this has to be 45 degrees, and this has to be 45 degrees. Okay, so 45 degrees and 45 degrees. Okay. I know the hypotenuse is always going to be 1. Now let me find the 2 legs. I know they're the same. I know the legs are the same because it's a 45, 45, 90. So here, what is this distance going to be here? The x value. Yeah, it'll be the x value. The x value is the width, right? The base, the width. How wide is it? That's the x value, square root of 2 over 2. So let me go write that down. Now the height. The height is always the y. Negative root 2 over 2. It's negative because I had to go down. I had to go down. So negative root 2 over 2. Okay. Done with my labeling. That's step 2. Step 2 is label and draw. So now let me actually go and find Sine. So sine of 315. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So from the dots, what is the opposite? They're both square root of 2 over 2, but is it the negative one or is it the positive one that's opposite of the dot? It's the negative one. Yep. It's the negative. The positive is adjacent. I don't need adjacent for this problem. And then divided by 1, because the 1 is the hypotenuse. Okay. Anything divided by 1 on the bottom stays the same. So it's going to be negative square root of 2 over 2. Done. Okay. Let's look at C now. C. So now they changed it up. Now they don't have degrees. It's radians. But that's still on the unit circle. It's still on the unit circle. That's why we wrote both. Because just in case they changed it. Degrees and radians are the same thing. It's like Celsius and Fahrenheit. They mean the same thing. They're just different systems. Right? Different systems. So this one we're looking for 4 pi over 3. 4 pi over 3. So 4 pi over 3 is, what was it? 240 degrees. Yep, right there. So a triangle that comes from quadrant 3 is going to look like this. So the triangle is going to look like this. Any triangle in quadrant 3 is going to look like that. Okay. So I'm going to go draw that triangle, and then this is where my dot's going to go. My dot's going to go right here. So I'm going to put that as the dot on my paper. Okay. Okay. I know the hypotenuse is 1. The hypotenuse is always 1. So let me go back and figure out what the degrees are. Okay. What is the reference angle going to be for 240? Remember, the reference angle in this case is this right here. It goes from 240 to 180. So 240 minus 180 is 60. So this angle right here is going to be 60. That means this angle right here is going to be 30. You can go. Okay. So now we got to find the sides. Okay, so let's go back. So the base is right here. The base is the x. So the x is negative 1/2 for 240. So negative 1/2. Since I went to the left, from the dot I went to the left. And then the height is right here. I also went down, so then that's why the height's negative. So negative square root of 3 over 2. Step 2 done. Labeled, drew, done. Okay. Now I am going to solve. I'm going to go tangent. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. Opposite over adjacent. So from the dot, opposite is negative root 3 over 2. That's the opposite side. The adjacent side is negative 1/2. I don't need hypotenuse on this one because tangent doesn't have hypotenuse. So now it's not divided by 1. So now I actually have to divide these. So what this means is this. Negative square root of 3 over 2 divided by negative 1/2. That's what that means. How do we divide fractions? What's the rules for dividing fractions? We've done it before.
You have to change the division sign to multiplication sign. You have to change 1/2 to 2 over 1.
There you go. There you go. Right? First one stays. Change to multiplication. Flip or take the reciprocal of the second. Now it becomes a multiplication problem. Multiplication with fractions is easy. You just do it straight across, right? So if I go straight across, they're both negative, right? They're both negative straight across. So it's going to be a positive answer. Can I multiply the 2 and the 3 to make a 6? No. So what do I multiply them by? Well, I multiply the 2 by the 1 that's in front that we don't write. So that's going to be a positive 2. And the square root of 3 just goes by the square root of 3. Multiply the bottom. 2 times 1 is just 2. And then, yep, you could giant 1. There's a giant 1 there because the 2's are both on the outside. And you can divide them both by 2 to make 1. Just square root of 3, that's it. Okay. Okay. All right. Now what I want you to do is I want you to do D on your own. Try D on your own, and we'll do it together in a few minutes. Try it out. See what you get. If you get the right answer, great. If you get the wrong answer, it's okay. It's just practice. All right. Okay, so pi over 4 is in quadrant 1. It's 45 degrees. Another name for it's 45 degrees. So this is the triangle I drew there that comes from here. The center is here. That's why I put the dot here. This angle here, that's the reference angle. What is that going to be? The reference angle here is the same as the angle, which is 45. We knew it's at 45. So this one is a 45, 45, 90. Okay. The hypotenuse is always 1. Okay, so now I need the base and the height of the triangle. Well, the base is the same thing as the x. So I know the x is square root of 3 over 2. The height is the same thing as y. That's also the square root of 2 over 2. Okay, so base and height are the same because it's a 45, 45, 90. Okay, done? Okay, cosine. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So adjacent to the dot is going to be the square root of 2 over 2. Hypotenuse is 1. Since you're dividing by 1, it stays the same. Okay. All right, let's look at letter E. What's different about letter E that hasn't shown up or hasn't the rest? It's negative, right? It's a negative angle. Okay, we've done negative angles. We haven't done them in a while. I think we did them before spring break. So let's kind of run up about it. Your unit circle actually does have negatives. We just didn't write any of them. It's got negatives. It goes over 360. It doesn't stop at 360. It keeps going, but we just stopped writing them. Okay. So remember, if I'm going this way, oops, if I'm going this way, 30, 45, 60, 90, and then I keep going all the way around, I get to 360, right? I can keep going. How do I get negatives? Go the opposite way, right? Go the opposite way. If I go the opposite way here, it's not 330, it's negative 30, right? So negative 45 is going to be at 315. It's going to be at the same place as 315 positive. Yep. So really, this is asking you, what is cosine of 315? That's another way of saying it. You're going to get the same answer. They'll do that on tests sometimes. Sometimes they'll say, what's cosine of 315? And then a few problems later, they'll say, what's cosine of negative 45? It's the same thing because they're located in the same spot. Okay, so I'm going to draw that triangle, just like I have. It's a quadrant 4 triangle. So my dot is going to be here. The right angle is going to be here. Okay. Okay. What is the angle going to be for this guy here? What is the opening? How many degrees or how many radians is it going to be for the opening here? Not 60. I went 30 plus 15 more. I went 45. Yep, 45 degrees. So this is a 45, 45, 90 right triangle. Okay. Now I need the coordinates. Well, hypotenuse is always 1. Okay. So the base or the width, base is the same thing as the width, is the x. So the x, since I went to the right, it's going to be positive square root of 2 over 2. So let me go label that on my triangle. So this one right here is going to be square root of 2 over 2. Let me go label that on my triangle. The height, I go down. I'm having to go down. That's the y. Negative square root of 2 over 2. Okay, label. Now, cosine. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Adjacent over hypotenuse. So from the dot, which side is adjacent? What is the adjacent? Square root of 2. The positive one, right? The positive. And then hypotenuse is 1. So it's going to be the square root of 2 over 2. Okay. Which is the same answer as cosine of 315. So if they asked you what cosine of 315 was, it'd be the same answer. It's also equal to that. Okay. All right, let's look at F. Cotangent. So now is the first one from the main 3. The big 3 are sine, cosine, tangent, but the others are cosecant, secant, and cotangent. Okay. So let's do a cotangent. So first thing I'm going to do, find 5 pi over 6. Find 5 pi over 6. It's right there. Draw that triangle. Okay, so I'm going to draw that triangle. The dot is in the center. The center is here. The center of the circle is here, so the dot's going to go there. Okay, let me go back. So yeah, my next question is what are the angles? So what the reference angle is right here. So the reference angle goes from 150 to 180. 150 to 180. So if it goes from 150 to 180, how far did it go? Or how much did it open? From 150 to 180, what is that? 30. So this angle is 30. This angle is going to be 60. Let me go label that. Okay. Hypotenuse is 1. Okay, so let me get the other sides now. The base is right here. Base is the x, how wide it is. Square root of 3 over 2 is the base. Negative square root of 3 over 2. The height of the triangle is right here. Since I went up, it's going to be a positive number. Positive 1/2. All right, label done. Draw and label done. Step 2 done. Step 3, find the trig ratio. This one's cotangent. Cotangent is adjacent over opposite. Sorry. Let me see. It's in quadrant 2, right? No, because I went up. So the y is going to be positive. X is negative, y is positive. Okay. Okay, so cotangent is adjacent over opposite. Okay, so adjacent to the dot, to the orange dot, is going to be this negative root 3 over 2. Over opposite. Opposite is going to be over here, 1/2. We have a division problem. Okay, so the division, let me write out the division. Fraction divided by a fraction. So we have negative 3 square root of 3 over 2 divided by 1/2. We know that's the same thing as keep, change, flip. Okay, multiply straight across. I get negative 2 root 3 over regular 2. The 2's are going to cancel out like they did earlier to be 1's. So this time you're going to have a negative root 3. I think we had one that was very similar to that earlier. It was positive, right? Yep. A lot of these you're going to, as you do more of these, you're going to start to see, oh yeah, that looks familiar. That looks familiar. Look for patterns. Look for things you've already done. If you've already done stuff, don't do it again. Okay. All right, let's do G. Let's do G together, and then you guys will do H on your own. Okay, G together. 2 pi over 3. Two pi over 3, right there. So the triangle is going to look like this. The dot is going to go here because it's in the center. I'm going to go draw that triangle right now. Okay. Okay. What is the reference angle here? So it goes from what degree to what degree? 120 to 180. So 120 to 180, the difference there is 60. So that means this guy is going to be 60. This guy is going to be 30. Okay, let me go label that. Okay. Label the side lengths. That's the x, negative 1/2. That's the y, positive square root of 3 over 2. Okay. Secant. Secant is hypotenuse divided by adjacent. Hypotenuse divided by adjacent. So from the orange dot, the hypotenuse is 1. Hypotenuse goes on top this time. Adjacent. Adjacent is negative 1/2. So what this means is 1 divided by negative 1/2. 1 is a whole number, but 1/2 is a fraction. So I have to treat it like a fraction. So 1 is 1 over 1. Keep, change to multiplication, flip negative 1/2 to make it negative 2 over 1. Yep, negative 2 over 1, which is the same thing as just regular negative 2. Okay. All right, now I want you to do h on your own. Do h on your own. We'll do I and j together. And we'll be done. Okay, so the triangle here is the same triangle as the one for G. It's in the same spot. 120 is the same as 2 pi over 3. So everything about the triangle is the same. Okay. So cosecant is hypotenuse over opposite. So hypotenuse is 1. Opposite is the square root of 3 over 2. Yep. So this is what it means. This is what we have to change it to. So we get 2 over the square root of 3. So we got to use our trick, right? Our trick says, there you go. So on top, we're going to get 2 square root 3 over 3. That's it. 2 and 3 can't be reduced. So we're done. Okay. Last two. I, letter I. What's different about letter I? It's a big number. It's past 360, right? I don't have any numbers past 360 on my unit circle, but you kind of do. You just didn't write them down. You can keep going forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever, right? If I go all the way around once, that's 360. But then I can keep going. And if I go around twice, that's 360 plus 360, which is 720, right? And I can keep going and going. Same thing with negatives. I can go but the other direction, right? Well, now I have to figure out, if I go around once, how much more do I have to go around? 240, right? So 600 is located in the same spot as 240. Because you go around all the way once, and then you still have 240 to go to make 600. So really, this is going to give me the same answer as sine of 240. Same spot. Draw the triangle. Okay, so let me write down this triangle here. Okay, so for 240, what is this angle going to be here for 240?
That's 60.
Yep, because 240 minus 180 is 60. So that means this has to be 30. Okay. So, so here we go. So x is the base. That's negative 1/2. Y is the height of the triangle, which is negative square root of 3 over 2. Now find sine. Sine is opposite. Opposite of the dot is going to be negative root 3 over 2 over hypotenuse, which is 1. Well, anytime you got to divide by 1 on the bottom, it's easy because you don't even have to divide. The answer is just whatever you get on top.
That's why I love 1.
Anytime you divide or multiply by 1, it's really nice. Yes. Okay. 0. What's the problem with this guy here? It's on our number. It's on there. It's on there though, right? 0's on here.
It's not. It's on like the straight, the horizontal line.
Which step am I gonna have a problem with?
Which
Drawing the triangle.
should be in.
Well, no. How am I gonna draw a triangle if that's the hypotenuse? I can't. Right? You can't draw a triangle because there's no hypotenuse. That's just it's just a line, right? So this is how we do it. This one's cosine, right? Go look at the other cosines that you've had. We've had about 2 or 3 or 4 cosines. Let's start with number 1. I had a triangle here, right? Look at your answer. The answer was the same as which part of the triangle? The base, right? Which is also the x, right? Isn't it the x? Isn't the base the x? Okay. Let's go to the other one. Letter D. Was it the same thing there? We had another cosine. Then I have another cosine for negative. Did I give it the same? Did it have the same answer? X is always cosine. Cosine is always the same as the x coordinate. Let me write that down. Cosine is always equal to the x value or the x coordinate. So at 0, what is the x coordinate? 1. So what is cosine of 1? Or cosine of 0, sorry. It's actually 1. Okay. All right, since we're running low on time, don't lose these. We'll tape in first thing on Monday. Okay. Don't lose these because we're going to do some example. We're going to do some practice based on this. Okay.